Hello. This is a training on community first choice, also known as CFC. This training also will include a training on respite. It is presented by the Willis Group moving forward, and I am your speaker today, Jennifer Willis. We are going to dive right into this CFC training to help our parents and staff members who provide CFC and respite services to our consumers that may be enrolled in the HCS or Texas Home Living Program. And we want to make sure that we give some clarification on what CFC and respite is and how to complete the services as requested by Health and Human Services. So let's start off talking about what is community first choice. So CFC, pass, have, or community first choice, which is personal assistance services and habilitation. It's a state plan service that consists of personal assistance services that provide assistance to an individual in performing activities of daily living, which are also known as ADLs, and instrumental activities of daily living, which is IADLs, based on the individual's person centered service plan. It includes non skilled assistance with the performance of ADLs and IADLs, household chores necessary to maintain the home in a clean, sanitary, and safe environment, escort services, which consist of accompanying and assisting an individual to access services or activities in the community, but they do not include transporting an individual, and assistance with health related tasks. Community First Choice also includes habilitation that provides assistance to an individual in acquiring, retaining, and improving self help, socialization, and daily living skills, and training the individual on ADLs, IADLs, and health related tasks such as self care, personal hygiene, household tasks, mobility, money management, as well as community integration, including how to get around in the community, the use of adaptive equipment in the community and in the home environment, and personal decision making. They can also work with the individuals on, or CFC also includes working with the individual on the reduction of challenging behaviors to allow individuals to accomplish the ADLs, the IADLs, and health related tasks, and self administration of medication. So, this is how CFC is defined by the Texas Administrative Code, and also by Health and Human Services for individuals receiving home and community based services, as well as Texas Home Living Services. Let's look at respite. Respite is a temporary relief for caregivers. It's commonly, of course, known as respite. It is defined as taking a break from the responsibilities of caring for a person with a special needs. Respite support may be used by the caregiver to visit their family, to spend a leisurely evening at dinner or the movies, to have their loved ones experience a community outing while they remain at home, or take a weekend or week long vacation. Again, the main goal of respite is to allow for the primary caregiver, that could be a mom, a dad, or family member, or whoever the primary caregiver is, despite their title or relationship, for a person with a special needs or disability. It's designed for that caregiver to be able to take a break. There is not necessarily a limit to taking, a break, but there are some requirements on where the individual must be or cannot be when they are receiving respite services, especially with the new implementation of EVV. And we'll talk about that a little later here in this training. Respite, again, it comes in various forms and it may occur in many settings. It may take place in the caregiver's home, the home of another person, in a community setting, such as in a child care center or a church. So it doesn't have to necessarily be where the individual with the disability resides. It can be elsewhere. But again, there are some rules that do dictate in the HCS and Texas Home Living programs, um, how being compensated for that individual when that individual is outside of their home, especially when it comes to overnight servicing that individual. A caregiver might choose to hire their own respite provider, or at least give our agency a recommendation on who they would like to provide the respite services. Now, that there are some requirements again in reference to that, so that caregiver, of course, will need to be trained properly, as well as receiving like a background check. So it can't just be anyone that you choose, but they do have to meet some criteria under the HCS and Texas Home Living program to become a respite or a CFC provider. So respite can range from a few hours a day to a week or more. Again, where respite occurs, the length of time depends on the needs of the family and the availability of the resources. While respite is generally planned, emergency respite is also sometimes needed. And so, again, there are provisions in place for our families that do receive respite for CFC. There can be schedules, or it can respite in particular can be scheduled, or it can be unscheduled as well. But again, it's not necessarily what we like to say is a free for all, because there are hours and time limits that are in place. And again, we'll talk about that as this training continues. So we can talk about that actually now. So how do we determine the hours? So again, it's not a free for all. You just don't get a whole bunch of hours. It is based on a budget in particular for each program. So if a person is in HCS program, there's a budget for that. And then if they are in the Texas Home Living program, then there's also a budget for that. And so we can speak with the local authority or the service coordinator also, and they will be able to tell you what your IPC year budget is. And so again, I don't want someone to think that they can get 24 hours a day for 30 weeks in the year of respite, because there is a cap on the budget. I will say that currently now for the Texas Home Living program, the budget is $17,500 a year for the Texas Home Living program. However, when you think about that $17,000, if a consumer is receiving other services, like they might be going to daycare, or they might be going to the dentist, those services do take away and are deducted from that $17,500. And so from there, the service coordinator or the LITA also calculates any remaining funds and say, okay, well, this is how many hours you can or cannot receive with regards to respite in particular. So the amount of hours for respite, they are determined by the agreed amount on the IPC, while the CFC hours are determined by the CFC assessment. And so we will look at that. I'm going to look, we're going to look here now at the CFC assessment, so that we do get an idea of what that CFC assessment does look like. So it is very important for our caregivers or whoever might be helping our individuals complete their CFC assessment to really think about this assessment and talk about this very, very detailed, because this is how the hours are determined on how many hours that person might get for their IPC year. And so just as a sample, this is what it looks like. This is a blank one, just again because of confidentiality, so we're not showing someone's in particular. But if you look, here on the screen in particular, they're asking questions about, does this individual have any problems, taking a bath or a shower? And so if that individual has, problems or have difficulty or need support in taking a bath or a shower, then that service coordinator or the evaluator is going to fill out this, and they're going to start rating how much support that person needs. So in this particular, they're saying, hey, how much support do they need? Well, here, these are the tallies are basically the scoring, and we're going to say for our individual John sample here, he's total support. He cannot take a bath or a shower independently at all. Or maybe he can. Maybe he doesn't need assistance in taking a bath or a shower. And if that is the case, that service coordinator evaluator may say no, he needs none, as here, so that will be a 0 here, or he needs total assistance. And so if he does need total assistance, or it's pretty severe, or say it's mild, say he needs a little bit of help, like some reminders, and then they're going to say who's going to help that individual take a bath or a shower. And you're going to say, hey, either the caregiver is going to assist in doing that, and we estimate that Mr. Sample here, it takes him about 15 minutes to take a bath or a shower. Maybe it takes him more time, more than 15 minutes, a day to take, because again, we're talking about how many minutes a day does it take this individual to, or does it take a caregiver to give this person a bath or a shower. And so on average, they estimate that it takes about 15 minutes. But say, this is somebody who struggles. Maybe, again, it might take 25 minutes to do that. And say if we're doing 25 minutes a day and giving them a bath, and we do that 7 days a week, then right here, it's already calculating you need 175 minutes per week to assist or provide that person with the bath. And so then we're going to get down here and we're going to talk about, or what does it really look like when you are giving that person a bath? So what task and what level of support is that person receiving? And I do again want to say, hey, this is a minute range. We can't just say, like we said here, oh, it's taking 25 minutes, because we don't think that, or the state doesn't think that, hey, that's really realistic, unless you really can support that individual needs 25 minutes to do that. Maybe that person I don't know. There's so many different examples, and I don't really want to give an example because I don't want someone to say, well, everybody needs that, because it's very individualized. So you have some options here. So you might say, hey, it takes us 5 minutes to lay out the supplies. It takes us 5 minutes to draw the water. We're going to be standing by, or again, maybe they need minimal or just a lot of reminders. So, and then you can get, additional time here for like habilitation as well. And so again, who's going to be responsible, say, for that, the habilitation component? Maybe that is the caregiver, and maybe there's some additional time, that's needed there as well. And so, it starts to add up the time that it takes as well. And so again, if that person needs it, they're level 1, these things have to coincide. So here we're saying they need mild support. So in mild support, this again is the column that evaluator would be working with as well. Um, and so, but again, if we're saying, hey, this person is again a support level of total support, then again, he needs or she needs total assistance with bathing. Okay. So, depending on again what level of support determines what that evaluator is going to put down here. Now, again, if we were saying here, oh, yes, this person needs 25 minutes a day to do that, then again, we have definitely got to right here explain why it takes 25 minutes to do that. Okay. So you might get extra time here too. So if hauling and heating water is required, add an extra 30 minutes. So you may not see this very frequently because this might be something you would see in some of our rural areas where individuals live, that they might have something like this, may or may not. So or maybe this is a standalone type bath tub or shower that the family has. That's what the individual is comfortable using. So maybe you may see that for some of our individuals. Also, so here again, you're gonna just explain in detail why that individual, what supports them having 25 hours. And then so this CFC assessment continues to go on. It talks about again those ADLs, dressing as well, and again pointing those things out. That individual maybe need help with exercising, and it just goes on and on and on. Shaving, grooming, oral care, nail care, so on and so forth. And so toileting as well, if that individual needs help with that, how much assistance does that individual need or not need when it comes to taking care of their ADLs. And so as the evaluator, and as we near, again, we're talking about meals, as well. It's very detailed. It does allow for quite a bit of details, and it tries to pretty much try to focus on every ADL that you could possibly think of. It does try to address that. So when you do have an evaluator that is out completing this CFC assessment, you want to definitely take your time, be very, very detailed, consider things, maybe even take some notes prior to that person, the evaluator, getting there, just so that we don't forget or leave out some of those things. And so as you get to the end of this assessment, it pretty much calculates the entire time. It can even provide like a work schedule, that evaluator or you guys may come up with, stating that, hey, I need someone to provide CFC services from 6:40 p.m. on Mondays until I don't know 8:45 p.m. on those Mondays. And again, they can say, hey, who is it going to be, and the relationship to that person. And so you can be very, very detailed with that. And so you can have multiple caregivers. You also can list individuals that are unpaid caregivers that also may provide support as well. Again, this can be very, very detailed. It is very, very detailed. It also takes in consideration that if we are talking about an individual who attends a day activity program, so if that individual is in a day activity program, or even needs assistance, at that, well, I won't say at the need assistance, but if that individual is at a day program, and say they go to school or go to an adult day from 8 a.m. in the morning until 2 p.m., then it is indicated here that they do get out into the community. And so this will be a time in which you don't really see CFC services being utilized. But again, if this is like a school age individual as well, then we're going to take into account, that as well, and say that individual, may be at school on Mondays at 7 a.m. and they, get out at 4 o'clock p.m. Again, taking into account that person's daily schedule as well. And so when you get here to section 9 of this CFC assessment, it starts to calculate. It's already calculated. Nobody's necessarily pulling out a calculator. Again, it's already telling us exactly how much time that individual will get. And so just say, for an example, this individual only needed someone for CFC to help them with bathing. It's already calculated as we have indicated it at the top. So this assessment says that, hey, Joe Sample only needs 175 hours a week to do that. We calculate that as needing 2.92 hours a week, basically, as well. For the past part of it, the rehabilitation part of it is 50 minutes a week. And so it gets very, very detailed. And so when individuals are saying, hey, I feel like I should have 40 hours a week of CFC services, well, this evaluation is going to tell exactly, and this is how the individual, the evaluator comes up with the amount of time that the individual will receive when getting CFC services. So I wanted to take the time to share with our caregivers again how do we determine the time that individuals get for CFC services. So it is based on that CFC assessment, as we have indicated here and just shown previously. So let's talk about completing the service notes. So for completing the service notes for CFC, we use Form 4121, which is Community First Choice, Personal Assistance Service, Habilitation Law. And for Respite, we use Form 4118, which is called the Respite Service Delivery Law. So let's take a look at those logs as well, so that our individuals again know what what's required. Because when an individual is provided CFC services, our caregivers staff is required to fill this form out, and this form must be filled out correctly, as it is a form that the state does review, and they review it for accuracy, and they do go line by line to review these forms. This form is also used to tell our agency how to compensate and how many hours to compensate. And so this form must match your clocking in and clocking out, and we will show you a little later on in this presentation on how to clock in and clock out, and these things, everything must match. So now that we know, hey, this individual is going to be receiving CFC services to help with bathing, then that is what we're going to focus on. So you're going to make sure that you put the person's name in this box accurately. They're assigned a local case number, and so you will get that from our agency. And then whoever the attendant is that is providing the CFC services, you are also provided with a EVV attendant ID. And so from there, you're going to begin to fill out the form exactly as the form indicates. So starting with the date. So for us, today is May 1st, 2024. And we're going to say again that this individual needed assistance with bathing. So we got to that person's house or started that bath at 7:45 a.m. And so we're going to put exactly the time that we clocked in, and we're going to put exactly the time that we clocked out. I'm not going to try to be so concrete in this time, because realistically, in this assessment, we would not just see 175 minutes. It would total to far more than this, and so you're not going to really see again something. You may or may not see something that might be that low, but it's not common, to see it that low. But it can, because not this is individual, based, and so it's not a one size fit all approach. And I'm just wanting to make some of our numbers, be a little higher right now, just so that you can also again just see that it's changing here at the bottom. So right now they're saying 455. So they're saying that this individual needs basically 7.5 hours a week, or 21 hours a week. So I just wanted to make that sort of line up with what we had already. And so that means that you will see somebody maybe have clocked in from 7:45 a.m. to, let's just guess that they're clocked out that morning at 10:45 a.m., which just means they did other things other than them, providing or assisting that individual with a bath. So this person worked a total of 3 hours today. They were at the individual's home. There was one person, and then you would sign it. Each line has to be signed. So one staff, and then enter all the codes. So I wanted to put down the location here, so you can see in this column, this last column here, that this is about the location. And so these are the codes. So when they're talking about the location here atop, where did this happen? This happened 12 at the person's home. There was one person, that one client that you worked with, and there was one staff person. And so while you were there, what are the things that you did? So these are our activities of daily living here in the first column. So these are all the things that you will see, you could see that the individual was working on. So remember, with John Sample, today, for those 3 hours, we worked on getting him to bathe. We worked on getting him dressed, and then we did some eating with him as well, and we worked again on like some independent. Now, it's possible that, hey, we had an attendant that came in that morning to work on those things, but then say later on that evening that person came back. It's possible that they came back, and so maybe they came back after this individual got home from school. So say they came in at 6:00 p.m. and they worked with him again until 9:00 p.m. And so that is 3 hours. You can either have 3 hours, or again the number three there. And this happened at the home. One person, I'm going to sign, and then one staff. And so that night, maybe we worked with him on some IP skill development, because at some point you have to work on the IP skill. Now, this would be a good time for me to pause too, and we're talking about this IP, because you've always got to work with the individual on the IP skill development. And where do we get this from? We get this from a PDP. So this is something that your service coordinator also creates with you as well. So they come out to your home. We talk about this person directed plan. We collect a lot of information and start to fill this document out. And then, you talk about, hey, what do the people like about the individual? What's important to that individual? What do people need to know to support that individual? Who is their family, their friends? Those types of things are in there. But as this PDP goes on, well, we start to then talk about the services that that individual received. So if they receive respite, or in this case, if they receive CFC, then we there's a goal here that says John wants to increase his independence in his ADLs in bathing and dressing. So this again coincides with what we also said here in our CFC assessment. Well, our main goal is to work on this goal. That is what CFC is truly about, that you're working on which goal is most important to John to help him be successful and as independent and safe in his environment. And so when we again are talking about IP skill development, we're talking about what is on that PDP, what is the goal, and how we are addressing and working towards that goal. So it's important to have at least to work on that goal at least if you're working with that person for the week, it's important to work on that goal at least one time. So you'll see, hey, they came back and again they were working on that IP goal. At that time, I also did provided some medication administration. If you're trained to do so, then yes, you want to do that. And I helped with some housekeeping as well with that individual. And so you'll see that again, these numbers here coincide with what is here in this, basically this key. Okay, so the individual, you can get multiple days. Say I did it on 5/2/2024. Same thing. I may have come in, at 7:00 a.m. and I may have, left at 8:00 a.m. It only took me an hour, to do what needed to be done. I did it at home, let me just say I did it at home. You sign it, one person. We worked on bathing, dressing, and say this person, housekeeping. Now, in this, you just say you went out now on the 3rd and you're still working with this individual. It is possible for you to also do some non-face-to-face activities with that individual. So maybe you went to that person's home as well, and say you needed to help them secure a ride to go to the library or do some leisure activity, or you helped to prepare the medications for them, or the housekeeping. You're probably going to see housekeeping sometimes a little more. So just say John goes to say he's super high functioning and he works during the day sometimes. Say you may have come to his home at 8 a.m. and you left at 2:00 p.m. And so maybe you were there because he was needing to have, and I put that in the wrong box. He was needing to have some housekeeping services, but it's possible that he wasn't, home as well. And you can still say, hey, I did this in the home, but you can still utilize some of these other locations if needed as well. And so maybe maybe the next day, say 5/4/2024, maybe the next day you guys went out and you did go to an activity in the community. It is possible to do that as well, because 99 means that, hey, we were out into the community as well. So from 8 to 5, that might be where you guys were. And again, it could, when you're out in the community, we're looking at making sure that this individual develops develop socially valued behaviors, and maybe you did a community activity as well, or maybe this person again, maybe he lives independently, and I did number 11, use of natural supports, that maybe I took him to go meet with his parents. So any of those things are acceptable to be able to do. Now, when you've done those things, you do want to document the things that you did. And so, as we said right here on number 13, we're talking about that the individual, again, their goal that is in the PDP, he wants to increase his independence in his ADLs. You may say, John is making progress towards his IP goal. And so if you just say IP goal, then we know you're talking about what is on that PDP. And so if he goes out, into the community, then you also can discuss going out into the community. John was successful in participating in I don't know what kind of event, maybe kites in the park. So John was successful in participating in kites in the park at Clyde Park. And so you can go into more detail if you want, but at least we know that individual, hey, I worked this many hours because he was at the park, at a community event. And so I can follow this up. John enjoys community outings. You can say that. As well. And so again, if they're out in the community, you do want to definitely be detailed as to what happened out in the community, or why, especially when you're out for this long period of time as well. You do want to document what is happening during the time that you are working with that individual. And so that is what your assessment, your logs would look like. They again can be, if anything major happens, if you needed to take that individual to get medical attention, you do want to document any of those things as well that's happening. But again, from there, you want to make sure that for every single time that you are clocked in and working, that again, it is signed as well. So a signature does have to be here. I'm not clicking here just because it's going to put a digital signature there. And a digital signature is fine if you do decide that you want to do this digitally. So, but if you want to add some additional things, you can add roles as well to this to make sure that you capture the things that were happening during this time. Okay. And so that is how we complete documentation and service log for the CFC assessment. It's also the respite service delivery log is similar, but you cannot put multiple days on here. As you see, this is a state form, and it is indicating one form per day. The difference here is when we say place of services, they are wanting you to put a an address here. It could be that person's home address. And again, you're going to be putting whatever their local case number or ID number is. And again, it's one per day. And so you're going to put the date, making sure that the date is there. And you're going to put your time in. And so it's telling you to mark or initial all the areas in which you provided assistance to the person. And so in this instance, you're going to time in, time out. And when they're talking about, it's sort of kind of interesting because it used to be that you could put your initials here and you still can, but it's also asking for time in and time out. So it's interesting. I'm going to say that you're going to put the time in and you're going to initial next to that time. So if you again helped that person in respite with any of these tasks, you're just going to give the time that you did it. So if you gave that person a bath at 8 a.m., then 8 a.m. Till 8:30 a.m. Was a bath. If you did some housekeeping as well, maybe you did housekeeping from 10 a.m. to 1 o'clock p.m. and helping that person. Again, IP skill development. When we're looking at the IP skill development, we're talking about the PDP. And so they're saying that he wants to remain safe. That's usually what you'll see under respite, or that person wants to go out in the community. And if they want to remain safe, then I can really say that from the time that I got there from 8 a.m. until, say I worked 12 hours, I gave that parent 12 hours worth of relief for respite. This is what we did. And so that is, again, supervising, they're talking about safety. And so we did, safety task or ensuring that individual was safe. So from 8 to 8, that is what was being done. And you can, if you did it more than one time, you can indicate that here as well. From there, you're then going to sign, to verify that you provided that service. And this again is down here where we're talking about, initialing at as well. And we may say John is making progress towards his IP goal. You're going to indicate, if there was anything that was significant that may have happened or anything like that, you want to indicate that on here as well. But that would be our respite form. So it's a very simple, quick, straightforward form that does coincide with that PDP. And so that is how we complete the forms and document that the services were provided. So that takes us to clocking in and clocking out. Our agency currently uses the recommended selected HHSC vendor for EVV, and so we use HHA Exchange to clock in and clock out, to record and document our services for CFC as well as respite. So when using HH Exchange system, the caregiver is responsible for downloading and installing the HHA Exchange Plus mobile app onto their personal mobile device. And to locate and download the app, enter the keyword HHA Exchange Plus in the search bar of the App Store or the Google Play. So if you have iPhone or Google, you're going to have to download from their App Store. It is a free app to download. So after installing the mobile app, the caregiver must use the app to sign up with HHA Exchange and connect to one or more agencies in order to use the mobile app. So with our agency, we would give you what our agency code is once you download the app. It does look like this when you are downloading it from the App Store. And so I want to go into just a little bit briefly about HH Exchange, because we also provide our families with this document, this manual that you'll need to read through in order, to set up the mobile app as well. But once you've downloaded that app, you'll come to a screen that looks like this. You'll enter in your information, your password. This will come up once you've signed up. So note, the first time you open it, you must select your preferred language and tap apply. And then again, to sign up and log in, you've got to sign up. So you're going to sign up here when you first get into it. And then from there, you're going to be able to log in. And so this is, again, a manual that goes through how to sign up, download HHA Exchange, and to sign up for it. And so these are just these are the steps that you will see that will take place once you have downloaded it. And from there, you will start to be able to clock in and clock out. Our agency also will, give approval and send out links that you will need, passwords that you will need as well, and that are they're automated messages that actually come from HH Exchange, but we do have the authorization to send that to you via email and text message, and we can do some resetting. So from there, you're basically going to, clock in and clock out using, again, the HHA Exchange system. That is, this state vendor. It could change, next year or the year after. It could change, but as of May 1st, 2024, the Health and Human Services does use HHA Exchange system. This system, it is very important for our caregivers to know. This system is intertwined with a GPS system. And so an individual who clocks in and out using CFC and Respite do know that it is monitoring the location in which you clock in and out. And so it will be that it is set to that individual's home, especially for CFC. So if you or someone attempts to clock out away from that individual's home, it may or may not let you clock in or out, but it is going to basically trigger the system to let us know that it's an unauthorized clock in or clock out, or that the individual is away from that home. Usually when that happens, that it'll prompt the system to basically zero out the time, not recognize the time, and so you may not be paid for that time. There's a lot of hoops sometimes that we have to jump through to try to correct it. So it is always best practice to be at that individual's home when you are providing services, and it needs to be authorized. Please just give us heads up that you're going to be servicing that individual, and a simple email will work to let us know, hey, I service the individual out into the community, just in case once we start to pull the reports, which we pull twice a month, so that we can complete payroll. But let us know, hey, we provided service, or services was provided out in the community. Okay. So, as we start to wrap up this training, we do want to remind our individuals, our caregivers in particular, about abuse, neglect, and exploitation. And so, if you feel an individual receiving HCS or Texas Home Living Program services is a victim of abuse, neglect, or exploitation, please call the Texas Abuse Hotline at 1-800-647-7418, or submit an online report via www.texasabusehotline.org. Agents are available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and anyone who suspects abuse, neglect, or exploitation must report their suspicion within 1 hour. Reporting an instance of suspicion of A&E is mandatory by the state of Texas. We also do want to continue in this training to give some definitions of abuse and so or of A&E. So abuse is the willful infliction of injury, unreasonable confinement, intimidation, or punishment with resulting physical harm, pain, or mental anguish. Abuse can be mental, physical, sexual, or verbal. Neglect, the refusal or failure to provide goods or services, including medical services that are necessary to avoid physical or emotional harm, pain, or mental illness. The refusal or failure of those responsible to provide an elderly or disabled person or a child with such life necessities such as food, water, clothing, shelter, personal hygiene, medicine, comfort, personal safety, and other essentials can be deemed as neglect. And exploitation is the illegal or improper use of an elder or disabled person's funds, property, or assets. Examples include but not limited to cashing a person's check without authorization or permission, forging a person's signature, misusing or stealing a person's money or possession, coercing or deceiving a person into signing any document, for an example, any contract or will, and the improper use of conservatorship, guardianship, or power of attorney. All can be deemed as exploitation. There are some categories again of abuse. I will not read these word for word, but please do pause your screen for a silent reading of each of the definitions. But we do again want to point out with abuse, abuse can be physical abuse, emotional or psychological abuse, as well as sexual abuse. And so again, we want to remind our families that any individual who suspects an individual might be a victim of abuse, neglect, or exploitation to please contact the Texas Abuse Hotline, and you do need to contact that hotline number within 1 hour of your suspicion. We are not asking for our individuals to investigate whether or not abuse, neglect, or exploitation has taken place, but if you suspect. So if you think it may have happened, please do report it. We want to thank you for taking the time to listen to this training. So, all comments, questions, and concerns can be directed to the Willis Group Moving Forward LLC. We're located at 1200 Main Street in Dallas, Texas, 75202. Our phone number is 214-800-2846. Our fax number 214-853-5663. And our email is the Willis Group HH at gmail.com, or visit us on our website at www.thewillisgrouphh.com. And again, thank you so much for taking this training.